another job. What's becoming obvious now is that people do. There are jobs around, people are dissatisfied, people are underpaid, and they can now vote with their feet. Previously, that wasn't an option for them.
Right. And there are, importantly, those full-time positions that are there to meet them voting with their feet. It's no longer that they have to kind of forego the security in lieu of having to hang on to that uncertain sort of part-time.
I'd make the point that at 5.2% unemployment, we're not far from full employment ultimately. And we saw a real scarcity of talent. We're seeing that scarcity of talent already in financial services, where the window for spare talent is really slammed shut on some segments. And we'll see that, I think, increasingly in the mining sector, technology, life sciences.
Is it fair to say this creates a headache for the Reserve Bank, the idea of full employment? You know, the Nirvana's... the Nirvanalists, if there's such an expression out there, would love that. But it creates big inflationary problems.
Yes.
Full employment, right?
It does, but I think we're also looking at perhaps the wrong side of the figures. 95% of people are employed in full-time work. And it's those sort of stats that, turning them around the other way, you can suddenly see as being actually very, very useful for, I think, indexes and for interest rate decisions.
Listen, I do appreciate Jason Johnson, of course, and Simon Boulton from Qualis, and, of course, separately from AESC, round that right way, I hope I got it, and also Cross in Perth with Peter Gleeson from China McLeod. Gentlemen, that's been great analysis, and I'll just keep you there maybe for some final thoughts if I can, but I want to go to Andrew Main at the Australian, because Andrew, good to have your input into this one. Wayne Swan wasting no time about it, holding a media conference and saying, look, these figures are great for Australia. Is there going to be any kind of opposition comeback on today's numbers?
Pretty hard to come back, other than perhaps warning about inflation, as one of your previous speakers was talking about, because certainly there was that rather terrifying acronym with a name like NAURU, which is the percentage, the unemployment number below which the country is risking further inflationary pressure, and certainly we're getting down towards that. I mean, I understand that the expectation of 5.3%. We've come back with 5.2%. This is certainly one where the opposition is going to be struggling. But the other thing that I find quite interesting to observe, and I'm sure you are too, Carson, is that there's a bit of a disconnect between the rhetoric that we're seeing about the plan to tax miners, which hasn't, of course, happened yet. There was 1,500 people out there at Langley Park in Perth yesterday, including Andrew Forrest, who suddenly decided to wear his bright blue and yellow overalls.
They were just groupies. They wanted to be seen with Twiggy, right?
Well, there was an element of that. But, I mean, certainly there's a very, very genuine debate about the mining tax. I mean, I realise there's a lot of weird stuff around the edges about it, but it is an entirely justified debate about the mining tax and how that may have an effect. But what this number has done, it's a retrospective number, is it's told us that actually things are going pretty well.
Well,
I mean, I did notice...
They are not going well with respect, Andrew, if I can say this, for Prime Minister Rudd. I'm looking at the latest poll from Reuters saying now he could be the first one-term Australian Prime Minister since 1932. This is a poll trend from Reuters, showing they hold an insignificant 0.4 of a point lead on a two-party preferred basis. That compares with a 23-point lead in March 2008. Will these numbers, my question is, will these numbers actually do anything to reverse that slide?
I'm not sure they will, Carson, because I think now in Australia we have become so used to having low unemployment, having gone through this global financial crisis, and noticed that instead of going up to 8%, our unemployment number, I think, peaked at something like 6 and a bit, 6.5, something like that. We've done far better than we thought. And I think there's a disconnect between public expectations of how the underlying economy is going, which is what this number is telling us, and public expectations of how the future planning is going to go. And really, what has happened is that, as we can see, is that Kevin Rudd has basically had a lot of his authority stripped away by a couple of reasonably theoretical events, if you like. One being the significant delay to 2013, I think, of the emissions trading scheme, and then of course all the other stuff about home insulation and stimulus spending.
All right,
So,
Andrew, I need to come in over the top of you on that, because I just want to get a final thought from you as to say, well, the old truism that people voted according to what was in their back pocket, you would say, just to paraphrase what you've just said, maybe that old truism ain't true anymore. In spite of a good jobs number, in spite of all this high unemployment, you know, it's a good day to kind of bury that truism.
Are we talking forwards or backwards? I mean, this unemployment number is retrospective, and the election is going to be forward-looking. It's an interesting question, and I mean, I think it's. You can't argue with the polls. There's absolutely no doubt that Kevin Rudd has got to restructure the way he runs the country if he wants to be re-elected as Prime Minister.
Andrew, it was always a pleasure, and appreciate your instant analysis. Many thanks. Andrew May from The Australian. I want to bring in the panel once again for some final thoughts, rapid-fire ones at that. I want to go first to Jason Johnson beside me from AESC. Just a thought now on where we're at when it comes to where you see it.
Well, look, I think a great result, 5.2%. Let's understand that's internationally leading unemployment rates or full employment, moving towards full employment next year. We're going to see some real talent shortages come to the market over the course of the next 12 months. Organisations should be thinking very seriously now about talent acquisition, because talent won't be readily available in 2011 and 12.
Simon from Aquilas.
I think that it's a double-edged sword for the government. Yes, unemployment's going down, but that means higher interest rates. It means that people are spending more money. So I think that it's going to be where voters really take their focus on job numbers or on back pocket.
And Peter Gleeson, to you, China McLeod in Perth, a concluding remark from the state which perhaps stands the most to lose should a new tax impost really shoot home. Admittedly not today, but into the future it's being projected.
Thanks, Carsten. Yeah, absolutely predictable dynamic in the marketplace. Full-time jobs up, a loss of a number of part-time jobs, a realisation that there's only a certain amount of talent to go around. I agree with the other panellists that it's going to lead to wage and pressure on wage increases. So a very predictable result, although a pleasing result for this month.
Peter Gleeson from China McLeod, my panel here in Sydney, Jason Johnson, AESC, and Simon Boulton from Aquilas, on a day where we saw unemployment, well, the figure, unemployment at least, rise by 26,900 for the month of May. We've seen a good shift into full-time work, and we've seen more hours worked as well. The Australian dollar jumping on this news, holding above 83 US, so interest rate expectations perhaps more now in play for a tightening of policy sooner, if not later. So stay with us, continuing coverage in a short while.